just thought I'd go live with the peace deal brokered by probably the greatest president of our living memory. You know, I thought Ronald Reagan was great, but Donald Trump's just trumping Reagan. But anyway, just a quick video. Peace through strength. Isn't that interesting? And the, you know, just unbelievable what's happened so quickly. So, and the other thing I just want to add is I am amazed, if not concerned, with the amount of people that basically are anti-Israel and trying to put Israel in the category of genocide and they're as bad as the other side and all this sort of stuff. You know, I really don't know what history book you guys are reading, or that they're the occupiers. I mean, they're the indigenous people of that land. If you just care to read a little bit of history, even if you just reflect on what happens at Easter and Christmas, and just Google it and find out that they are the original people there. In fact, the Jews are not only the indigenous people, but Abraham. When you go back into the scriptures, Abraham is actually the father of the Arab race through Ishmael. I'm no biblical historian, but it doesn't take much common sense to realise that the Jews, that it's a bit like, in a way, it's a bit like saying that the Aboriginals of Australia, that Australia wasn't their original inhabited land and trying to dispossess them totally. Or if the case was that the Aboriginals from Australia suddenly, for some reason, were all disenfranchised from Australia. Maybe the original settlers, when they came over from London, deported all the Aboriginals that they could find over to some other country, and then they came back, and then they came back under certain circumstances, and then everyone says, oh, they don't belong here. This is what they're trying to say to Israel. Israel, without going into the depth, there's plenty of people who cover this, but basically the return of Israel in 1948 was prophesied in the scriptures, and the Israelis' history is all there. For goodness sake, it's like trying to dispossess the Romans from Rome or something, just ridiculous. But anyway, apart from that, a lot of people are anti, you're a Zionist or whatever. What the hell's that supposed to be? You're an Australian, or you're an American citizen, as if they'd run down these rabbit holes, which basically are just, I think they're just mental traps by the dark side, quite frankly. And unfortunately, I've had to block people who I thought were reasonably intelligent on my Facebook site because they're anti-Semitic. Now, I was just talking to a good friend of mine, David Pillow, who's the founder of Church and State. We're talking about that the other day, and I'll just it's an open conversation, and he said to me, and it's so true, that Israel is the willowing fan of God himself, right? Remember, in the scriptures it says, those who curse Israel will be cursed, those who bless Israel will be blessed. Now, all through the United States, with the the head of the charismatic church, John Hagee, Kenneth Copeland, all the ministers that actually know what they're talking about, always back Israel. Every USA president that's worth their salt always backs Israel. Why? Because Israel is the I suppose it's the difference between us and Islamic terrorism. Now, that's not talking about all the Islamic people, of course. It's talking about the death cults. As a matter of fact, I jumped in a cab the other day, and believe it or not, the cab driver was from Iran or somewhere around that region. Anyway, he was talking to me about the Shiite and the Shia Muslims and the difference between the two of them, And he said to me, he said, look, he said, we're not part of those death cults. Actually, this guy, this taxi driver, this is in Brisbane, he still holds a bullet in the back of his knee from being, his village was attacked by the death cult. So, there's an extremist cult embedded in the Islamic situation, and neither Shia or Shiite and Shia, I think they're the two main religions. I'm not an expert on it. Both of them don't want them there. It's like Iran. Iran before the Ayatollahs was a great free country under the king. And hopefully the king of Iran will come back and recommence a rule there with some sort of common sense. So when the Ayatollahs moved in, well, then all the death cult stuff moved in, hanging people in the streets, all this sort of stuff, chopping heads in the streets. I call them head choppers, because that's what they do. They're death cults. Just like Donald Trump said in his various speeches in the Middle East, no one wants a death cult. It's good for no one. It's no good for the Middle East. It's no good for the West. It's no good for anyone. But once that's promoted, you've got real problems in the camp. Now, in Australia, just recently, you had, just before this peace deal's been broken, you had the streets full of Islamic supporters with pictures of the Ayatollah in the main street in Melbourne and Sydney. There's a problem there, folks, and it's allowed to be a so-called legitimate protest. This is Palestine, free Palestine, all the rest of it. Just have a look at your history. They're not freeing anyone. They're housing the terrorist proxies from Iran, and that's why Trump and Israel have flattened the nuclear capacity. It's pretty common sense, really. Peace through strength. And unfortunately, for all those people who are rabbit-holing about Israel and all the rest of it, as they always do, on this occasion, you haven't got anything to carry on about, because the situation has been brought to a great halt by decisive action, by peace through strength. And so you haven't got the terrorists in the world with nuclear weapons. I mean, for goodness sake, North Korea and all the rest of them's bad enough. And you've got Russia's a nuclear power, and thank God that Putin himself, they sort of back different horses, but you've got to be very careful with those who have nuclear power now. You don't want to have the absolute radicals with nuclear power as far as enrichment plants and all that's concerned, so that if they're you can imagine, if they're a death cult and you're handing the most dangerous weapons in the world to them and you don't do anything about it. So, I also blame, Obama, Bush, and, old Sleepy Joe. They fed the Iran death cult billions of dollars. Now, can you fathom that out? And they're the guys that are actually sponsoring the weapons against Israel, and for that matter, any other Western world as well, because it's death to America, death to Israel, and therefore death to any other ally as well. That's what their plan is. And so in Australia, we've got this weak pathetic little man called Albo, or Al-Mufad as I call him, and you've got Penny Wong and all the Labor, and I mean the Liberals are no better actually, but you've got all the, especially Labor, all the wokies, all the lefties, all the climate, the climate cult followers. They've all got egg on their face now because they backed the wrong horse. They criticised Trump before he got in, after he got in, and then suddenly there's a complete global pivot point being this peace deal and also the wiping out of the nuclear bases in Iran very decisively with the B-56 bombers, anyway, whatever version of the bomber, the stealth bomber. Quite interesting when you look at that, how that bomber actually works, and it's so precise. So, and they gave them warnings to get out of Tehran or whatever it is over there, so they gave plenty of warnings for the civilian people to get out of the way. And of course, all Iran, they just attack anything, hospitals, houses. They don't go for military targets. They just go for the Facebook look. We're the victims sort of stuff. And I mean, if people can't see through that, I don't know what's wrong with them. But anyway, bottom line is this. There today and over the last 12 days, there has been a global paradigm shift. As I predicted, I didn't realise this was going to happen, but I predicted a paradigm shift. Now, there has to be, the bottom line is this, there has to be peace through strength. Now, it's going to be interesting over the next 6 months what happens to the Labor Party. A lot of my associates say, oh, they're going to last another 3 years, they're going to go for another 6 years. I said 6 months. I said Albo and the Labor Party and the Greens, that government we've got now, they're going to last 6 months. And because of the geopolitical global situation, I think that prediction is closer than I think. So I was predicting around about October, November this year, we'd see a double dissolution and a referendum on free speech. We really need to have that happen, and we really need to recalibrate the whole government of Australia. Basically, in Australia, I don't see any. I was putting my money on Gerard Rennick there for a while, and he's still got good policies financially, but man, Gerard, the attitude on Israel, mate, and George Christensen with the attitude to Israel, wrong bet, boys, wrong bet, and I can't understand why you want to sort of classify Israel as part of the same mob that's chopping heads. Wrong people. I've been involved with the Israeli commandos, actually, brought 2 of them out to Australia to train federal police and that, and I'll tell you, these guys are on the right side of history, and, there's a red flag that goes up in my spirit as a Christian for anyone, I don't care who they are, anyone who condemns Israel, especially after World War II, for goodness sake, the Holocaust. What's wrong with you guys? You've got a very short memory and think that, it's just amazing. I just think spiritually blind. And, but you want to be on the right side of history. So, okay, this is the other thing that when I had a chat to David Plow about this, the founder of Church and State, this is what he said. He's got mates who, go down the rabbit hole of, the Zionists and Israel's done all these naughty things, and, they haven't got a perfect record, but crikey, they're not terrorists. They're not the head choppers, mate. There's a big difference. There's a big difference in what they believe in as well. And so they're the hinge-pin for global peace. I'm telling you now, they're the only thing stopping these, what I call the Ayatollahs and these characters, the death cult head choppers. They're the only ones stopping them from basically expanding all over the world, except the woke characters, the extreme left. Isn't it funny? The extreme left who believe in transgenderism, all sorts of little rainbow flags and all the lefty stuff, they're the ones who side with the terrorists. It's like crazy. You know, if any of those characters go over to the Middle East, they'd be on the head chopping block straight away. They'd chuck them off the top of buildings and all this sort of stuff. It's just insane that the left, who really believe in a whole lot of crazy crap, they're the ones who side with the terrorists. They're the ones who side with, you notice the left, even the Western left, will side on the side of war all the time. You look what's happening with London, you know, with the Prime Minister of the Labor, or is he a Liberal? No, I think he's Labor Prime Minister. They want the war. They were sending their troops over to not Iran, but sending the troops over to I've almost forgotten the other place that we're talking about. I'll remember it in a second. They're ready to send troops everywhere, you know, send people everywhere to maintain war somewhere, because they're all making money out of it out behind the scenes. Ukraine, I was thinking of, you know, UK ready to send troops to Ukraine, you know, and we've got to stop this and we've got to stop that. And, you know, these wars that they've created through what I call the Bush-Biden and that dynasty, they're basically created over oil. So the issue with the Middle East, I mean, that war with the weapons of mass destruction, you know, that was all BS. That was all about control over oil. So, you know, Obama was the other one I was trying to remember, Obama, Bush and Sleepy Joe. That was all about fighting over oil, basically, oil rights. Had nothing to do with changing cultures or anything else like this. So this time with Trump, Trump doesn't want to get involved in people's politics, basically. He just doesn't want terrorists with nuclear weapons. And he gave them a chance to broker the deal. They didn't want to broker the deal, the win-win, so it was win and you lose. Then you come to the negotiation table after that, and that's how it should be. You know, you've got to have peace through strength. And the other thing, you know, regarding those who, they're not Zionists, are they? Or they'll go down some sort of rabbit hole. Now, this is what David Plough and myself spoke about. And this is a question you've got to ask these people that are anti-Israel for some reason that only they know in their own head. You disagree, or you agree, let's say you agree that we shouldn't go down the Nazi track, right? You don't agree with the Nazis and their philosophy. You don't agree with the rape gangs in UK. No, that's wrong. You don't agree with the death cults that are chopping heads in the Middle East to their own people most of the time. And then if they see Westerners, they'll get on the block as well. To control people through fear. You don't agree with that. That's not freedom. But suddenly, when Israel defends themselves, like, you know, October 7, you know, I think there was like 1,000, 1,200 people, the head choppers murdered, and literally thousands of others they injured. Israel suddenly doesn't have a right of self-defence. Now you can imagine, just in simple terms, you can imagine someone comes into your house and is trying to attack your children. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, if you had the woke agenda, you'd just sit down and watch them get killed. And you know what? That's not me, and that's not how, the supporters of Donald Trump think, and I think that's not how the majority of the Australians think either. They don't think like that. Everyone has a legal right to self-defence, be it personal, be it global. And if you think Israel hasn't got a right to self-defence, sorry, you know, I don't know what, you know, if your wife was attacked in the street, would you defend her? Just common sense to me. But you've got all these theorists, and they carry on, and they're against all the bad guys out there, then they put Israel in as one of the bad guys. Give us a break. Go and have a look at the Holocaust movie, for instance, and just get a bit of history into that brain of yours. I just can't understand them. Anyway, that's Graham Healy over and out. And remember, Jesus is Lord. And remember, Jesus was a Jew. All right, okay, Graham Healy over and out. Have a great day, and what a great day it is. And thank God for President Trump. Nigel Farage will be the future Prime Minister of UK very shortly. In Australia, we really need a leader to stand up. I haven't seen him yet. I thought there was a couple of politicians that I was sort of backing. I thought, yes, they're standing up and they got the Lord behind them and all the rest of it. But our leader is still sitting there somewhere. I'm sure God's got his hand on him somewhere. We need another Menzies or, I like Bob Hawke, but, he sent us down a globalist track. But we need another Robert Menzies. Where is he? Keep praying about it, folks. That's Graham Healy over and out, the Healy Report. Have a great day. And remember, peace through strength.